Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something to you, because a lot of women think if a man ain't calling, texting, or showing up every 5 minutes, then he's not thinking about you. That is not how men work. When a man stays thinking about you, it doesn't start in his phone, it starts in his head. And once you get into a man's head, oh, you already halfway got him. Let me break down this first truth, because a lot of people misunderstand how a man really works. A man's mind always moves before his actions do, before he calls you, before he commits, before he admits anything out loud. It all happens silently in his head first. Men don't wake up one day and suddenly change behavior for no reason. Something has already been sitting on their mind, growing, taking space, rearranging priorities. When a woman stays on a man's mind, his routine starts feeling off. He still does what he's supposed to do, go to work, talk to friends, stay busy, but something don't feel right. There's a distraction he can't shake. He'll be doing one thing, but thinking about another, and that other thing is you. And the reason that matters is because men are very focused creatures. If something breaks our focus, it's important. We don't mentally entertain what doesn't matter to us. See, women often look for loud signs, big gestures, constant communication. But men process emotions quietly first. When you're on his mind, he replays moments without realizing it. A conversation you had weeks ago suddenly makes sense now. A laugh you shared hits different. Something you said comes back at the exact moment he needs it. That's how emotional seeds grow in a man's mind, slow, deep, and unnoticed at first. Another thing that happens is resistance. A man will try to push the thought away. He'll tell himself he's tripping. He'll say it's not that serious. But the more he tries to ignore it, the stronger it comes back. Because thoughts that don't matter disappear on their own. Thoughts that stay are asking to be acknowledged. And men don't like feelings we can't control, so this creates internal tension. While all this is happening, his actions might not change yet, and that's where women get confused. They think if he felt something, he'd show it. No. Men show emotions after we understand them, not while we're still sorting them out. When a woman stays on a man's mind, he's trying to figure out why, and until he figures out why, he moves carefully. He observes himself. He watches how he reacts when your name comes up. He notices how your absence affects his mood. What's dangerous in a good way is that once a woman occupies a man's thoughts, she becomes familiar. And familiarity creates comfort. Comfort creates emotional safety. Emotional safety is what men secretly crave, even when we act like we don't. He may not say it, but your presence in his mind starts to feel natural. And anything that feels natural starts to feel necessary. This is why forcing a man never works. You can't force your way into his mind. But when you get there naturally, by being consistent, authentic, and emotionally grounded, you don't have to do anything else. His thoughts will do the work for you. Because once a man's mind accepts you, his heart is already preparing to follow. Let me tell you something important about distance. Because people think distance makes feelings disappear. That is not true for a man. Distance doesn't erase a woman from a man's mind. Distance exposes how much space she was already taking in it. When a woman stays on your mind and she's not right there in your face, that's when the real work starts happening inside a man. When you're not around, there are no distractions, no conversations to hide behind, no moments to explain away. Silence becomes loud, and in that silence, a man starts noticing things he ignored before. He notices how calm he felt talking to you. He notices how understood he felt. He notices how you didn't drain him, didn't pressure him, didn't demand more than he was ready to give. That absence shines a light on what your presence meant. Men don't miss chaos. We miss peace. And when a woman stays on a man's mind during distance, it's usually because she brought peace without trying to control him. That's rare. That's dangerous. Because peace is addictive. Once a man tastes emotional peace, everything else feels loud and unnecessary. Another thing distance does is remove ego's protection. When you're around, a man can pretend he's in control. He can keep his guard up. But when you're gone, his pride has nothing to perform for. He can't impress you. He can't posture. It's just him and his thoughts. And those thoughts keep circling back to you. That's when he starts asking himself real questions. Why do I miss her? Why does this feel unfinished? Why do I care this much? And here's the part most women don't realize. Distance creates emotional honesty. When you're not there, a man's feelings don't have to impress anyone. They don't have to look strong. They just exist. And when you live in his thoughts during that time, it means your impact went deeper than attraction. Attraction fades without presence. Emotional connection grows without it. While this is happening, his behavior might look calm on the outside. He may not reach out right away. He may act normal, but inside he's replaying moments, little things. The way you listened, the way you responded without judgment, the way you made space for him to be himself, those details become heavy when you're not there anymore. Distance also forces a man to feel the contrast, life before you versus life after you. And when that comparison happens, he starts realizing something shifted. His days feel a little duller. His conversations feel less meaningful. That's not because he's lonely, it's because connection spoiled him. And once a man experiences real connection, surface level interactions don't satisfy him anymore. So when a woman stays on a man's mind during distance, what's really happening is clarity. He's seeing you without distractions, without noise, without ego. And if your absence makes him feel more than your presence ever had to prove, that's when he knows you mattered more than he was ready to admit. Now let me talk about something men don't like to admit out loud, and that is how our behavior starts changing long before we ever say what we feel. A man may look the same on the outside, but when a woman stays on his mind, the shift begins internally first, and then it leaks out in ways he doesn't even notice at first. When a woman occupies a man's thoughts, his reactions become slower and more intentional. He doesn't jump into conversations the same way. He listens differently. He chooses his words more carefully. Why? Because now her opinion matters. And the moment a man starts caring how he's perceived by one woman in particular, that's a sign his emotional center has moved. Men don't adjust for people they don't value. You'll also notice inconsistency, not because he doesn't care, but because he does. One day he's warm, engaged, curious. The next day he pulls back. That's the internal tug of war between pride and emotion. His heart is moving faster than his ego can handle. He wants to protect himself, but he doesn't want to lose you either. That back and forth isn't confusion about you, it's clarity fighting fear. Another subtle change is awareness. He becomes more conscious of you even when you're not present. Something reminds him of you, and instead of brushing it off, he pauses, he holds on to the thought, he may even smile without realizing it. That pause matters. Men are trained to move forward, not linger. When a man lingers on a thought of you, it's because it brings him something he doesn't want to let go of. His priorities also start shifting in quiet ways. Time becomes more valuable. He starts thinking about when to reach out, what to say, how to keep the connection alive without exposing too much of himself. Even if he hasn't contacted you yet, he's planning mentally. And planning means intention. Men don't plan around people who don't matter. Another thing that changes is how he talks about relationships in general. You may notice he becomes more reflective, less dismissive, less joking about commitment. That's because you've introduced a possibility. Not a demand, just a possibility. And that possibility makes him rethink old beliefs. Men don't like having their beliefs challenged unless the reward feels worth the risk. What's powerful here is that these changes happen without you doing anything extra. You don't have to chase. You don't have to remind him. Your presence in his mind is doing the work. And the more he resists it, the more obvious it becomes to him that something real is happening. Eventually, his actions start aligning with his thoughts. He reaches out. He checks in. He finds reasons to stay connected. Not because you asked, but because the thought of losing you became heavier than the fear of showing up. That's how you know a woman has truly entered a man's mind. He starts moving differently before he ever explains why. Let me tell you what really happens when a man's pride starts battling his feelings, because this is where most men lose control and most women misread the situation. A man's ego is built to protect him. It tells him to stay strong, stay guarded, don't reveal too much, don't need anybody. But when a woman stays on his mind, that ego meets something it can't dominate, and that's emotion. At first, pride speaks the loudest. It tells him not to reach out. It reminds him of past disappointments. It convinces him that silence is strength. So he stays quiet, hoping the feeling will pass. But feelings don't pass when they're real, they deepen. And the more he pretends he doesn't care, the more his mind keeps pulling him back to you. This internal conflict wears him down. He'll replay conversations, searching for signs that he mattered to you as much as you matter to him. Men don't ask for reassurance easily, so we look for it in memories, a laugh, a tone, a look. Anything that tells us we weren't imagining the connection, that's pride trying to protect the heart while the heart is already exposed. What's happening here is vulnerability, and men aren't taught how to handle it gracefully. Vulnerability feels like weakness to a man who's spent his life being told to toughen up, so instead of expressing it, he masks it. He stays busy, he jokes, he acts unaffected, but inside he's emotionally restless. And that restlessness is the cost of caring. This battle also creates hesitation. He wants to move toward you, but he fears losing control. Because once a man admits he has feelings, he gives up the illusion of power, and power to a man feels like safety. So he stalls, he waits for a sign, he hopes you'll make the first move.